I'm Rob Lindgren. I'm an associate professor in the College of Education at the University of Illinois.
Yeah, I'm James Planey. I'm a fourth year PhD student at the University of Illinois.
I'm Vishesh. I'm a fifth year graduate student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
First question is, what is the invitation that you are using to a diverse group of museum visitors?
I think we specifically chose to work with the New York Hall of Science and the Lyons Hall of Science for their unique access to a visitorship that is unique in its audience reach, in that the neighborhood it is in is particularly non-English dominant. So that our whole thing needed to not be language or text heavy, but more specifically in the design of Rainbow Agents, which is the project I'm talking about. This is this multiplayer game where there are two touchscreen controllers for people to program animals that we're calling their agents to plant seeds and cultivate a garden on the shared larger screen. I think we thought a lot about choosing cultivating a garden as a thing that especially makes sense for populations that are non-dominant in computer science. We would hope are contexts that they actually want to engage with, that they can relate to some extent. Other design choices have also included being careful about not having a scoreboard of any sort. I want to also hear how you were drawing your invitation.
Yeah, thank you for that. Kind of a cool thing about our respective projects is that we share a venue. So the venue for our project was the Lawrence Hall of Science. The placement of the exhibit in the lobby, I think, really helped. So we tried to really reduce the burden on doing a lot of text reading. We tried to build in a lot of iconography that most students would be able to understand. Try to reduce any sort of burdens on feeling like you can participate in this type of experience. Well, I guess the last thing is that our environment was set on a new planet. So in that sense, we felt like it could potentially appeal to a wider group of people.
And yeah, I do think in terms of the invitation that we present to the student learners, we have the design set up to be very reactive to the presence of a potential learner player. So the environment is sort of in this stable state, it's raining, and then suddenly as someone approaches it, the rain starts to drift away, the water level in the environment around this little building starts to drain. Clearly there's this sudden connection, like I'm already influencing this system, and it kind of draws them in and gets them thinking more about what that influence actually means. It's clear that not only am I influencing this, but I should be influencing this ideally with another person.
Vishesh, I wanted to ask you, I guess I wanted to hear a little bit from you about how you designed the experience to accomplish that kind of stranger and stranger collaboration.
But one of our key aspects was there's a large, like 50 or 60-inch TV screen where their work output is shown. So they're working on the shared garden. Having a shared output space creates this space for them to point and go like, this is what's happening, and ask questions, and also for other people in the space who might not yet be playing get excited, like what is happening.
We did something kind of interesting in ours to try to get students to work together. It's actually two players controlling a single character, and so they do movements that are aggregated together with the movements of the other player, and those movements combine to affect the actions of this single virtual character. And most importantly, if there are players that don't necessarily know each other, it forces a conversation about what they think is happening within the environment that sometimes involves some science ideas, like thinking about what energy is and how it's being represented.
So how are joy and play being conceptualized in your project?
I think museums offer a really interesting challenge, which is how do you support intentional and meaningful embodied learning in an environment that is, free choice. You can take advantage of the joyfulness that comes with being with people. So to accomplish those goals, our design strategy was to really just try to get them immediately doing stuff. And then the final thing I'll mention is that I think one thing that helped with the playfulness is that the environment kept things pretty low stakes, and it didn't have a lot of overt, like, these are our learning goals. It really left it up to the conversations and left it up to the idiosyncratic interactions of the students.
I was just going to reinforce the flexibility of the system in general. There would be large summer camp groups that come through, and with the tracking system being so flexible and forgiving, they knew that they were moving to interact, and that the rate of their movements were influencing the rate of the agent on the screen. But there was enough ambiguity where you'd have a group of 15 all around it gesturing at the same time, and it's not super clear who's controlling and who's not, and they're all engaged.
There seems to be a joy in just a mysterious phenomenon happening. You're trying to think of relatively novel, hopefully, ways of what joy and play could mean. Some of the more interesting participations have been when people come into a garden that's been left behind by someone else, where some plants are dying, and then they're like, I want to make this garden look good, and I'm going to save those plants from dying. All of programming education especially tries to be very task-oriented and finishing a thing, but we wanted some ideas of care and cultivation to also exist, because when I was physically there, like, there was at least one parent who were like, we often go to a garden in our grandparents' house, so they are relating with this and being increasingly excited that they're building this garden.
I think the thing that sort of drives this home for me is that, you can be on a museum floor. You do notice if you've got one person or a group of person who's moving around and clearly having fun. And so that was kind of our design focus, was let's make something that draws people in, gets them engaging, and then let the experience kind of take it from there.
I think it's a really powerful way to break down sometimes the barriers that get put up in terms of museum interact, but having sort of this neutral ground, this sort of novel environment, or this much more physical platform, and this idea that it's working and they're working together, and just seeing those connections is really powerful.
I think our entry point to join has more been the big screen where things are happening. Earlier, you'd mentioned the low ceiling that people can just jump in and participate, and also this being able to see other people's excitement as the entry point to join. But especially the low ceiling for action has definitely been a key thing in our design. And again, it's a museum. We're not trying to get them through a specific set of lessons, but it's interesting to see how we can figure out as researchers when jointly intersect with what are more traditional forms of learning, whereas what we want to conceptualize as learning in these environments.
I love how both of your projects are talking about specific learning goals, but also that the learning goal could be collaboration and dialogue and coordination itself. And I think that's really beautiful, because what I think we've seen in both of how you all talk about it is that one facilitates the other, right? Learning how to work together and to collaborate and coordinate actually facilitates learning specific things.
As a sign off, we're still building our project's website, but Matthew's lab's website, complexplay.org, is where we'll be locating more information and are collating our publications about this project.
The exhibit is still running at the Lawrence Hall of Science. This is the Energize exhibit. But yeah, we're really excited about it. It was great to hear about your work, Vishesh and Maxine.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. It was nice meeting you all, and for you all being just really generous with the thinking behind your work.